Hello, my name's Jordan Belgran, and this is the Wing Chun Qigong channel. Today, we're going to focus in more on the Silnan Dao and the Chi Kuan technique. This technique is a Buddhist technique, and it hasn't been handed down in secret. Um, you may have heard of different techniques that were held by masters and so forth, and they keep it in an inner circle. This was definitely one that clearly wasn't like an inner circle technique, and would have been taught to people outside of the monastery, for those who are looking to meditate. Um, let's just start with where we can find this method. All right, I'm going to grab a book if I have it in front of me. I do. Good. Excellent. So there's two books here. Um, this is by Master Chih of the Tandai sect, and this was written in 538 CE. All right, it's called the Essentials of Buddhist Meditation, and this one, oh, it's fine. It's like there's four of these books, but I think two are only in English, and this is the two. And the other one is the Six Dharma Gates to the Sublime. Now, um, with this technique, um, it's this is a follow-on from my previous talk on the Silent Tao and enlightenment, where I gave an enlightenment technique. Now, how it kind of goes in the text and so forth is you'll find that there's a bit of an argument or a discussion around sudden enlightenment versus the gradual path. The technique I gave in the previous video is a sudden enlightenment technique. As mentioned, it's of a specific school, probably dating back to Huineng, the sixth patriarch of China. So he was, if that's number one there, Bodhidharma, he's progressed forward to number six, and that's where things changed a little bit because there were different sutras that Bodhidharma brought with him, that he taught. But when you get to the time of the sixth patriarch, it shifts, and their focus is on the Diamond Sutra, which is kind of interesting. So if you like that sort of stuff, you might want to go back and have a look at the texts that he was promoting. Um, Now, if I look at the Diamond Sutra itself and the technique there, it is of that previous video, a sudden enlightenment technique. Now, what we have is these schools that run, and this is the Chan sect, and this is a technique from the Chan sect. Um, it's very interesting. I'm going to sort of talk about a few things. Um, I used to do a lot of mantra work, and um, that was my way of, in a sense, purifying the mind as well as purifying the energy channels, because there was a certain methodology I used when doing that work. I believe during that time, if someone had taught me this technique, which I knew about, um, I may not have been able to apply it, because of the disturbances within my mind during that time. Also, I never had anyone give me a clear cut, this is how you do it, which I'm going to provide in this video. Um, but what's funny is, since that's many years ago, since progressing from there and doing a lot of energy work, a lot of meditation, a lot of qigong, um, my mind is different. So this technique is very appealing for me when I have disturbances. So it's not so much a technique that I use if my mind is already in the state of stillness. And so we'll talk about that. So if we have a look at the Silnam Dao, there are different ways you can break it up with your physical body, your mind, your energy, your breath, the force flow lines. Okay. And what we're honing in on here is the mind component. So with this, you would already know how to perform the Silnam Dao with physical movement. And then you're fine tuning your mind as you're performing the movements. If you'd like, when performing this technique, if it's all too much, the Silnam Tao is based on the standing stake, um, which is or standing post meditation. So one of the benefits you can get is taking time aside to stand in your Yiji Kim Yang Ma. Again, I've given some previous videos how to enter into that, and simply standing there and practicing this meditative technique to calm your mind down. And then you can do the form with that calm, still mind. What we require with a meditation practice when we're not in meditation, because we're trying to get to meditation, which is a non-doing, we have to do non-doing to achieve the, sorry, you have to do doing to achieve the non-doing. And so the first step is to provide an object of meditation to concentrate on. So in the examples I've been chatting about, that object for me was a mantra, and I would focus on that and repeat that. That could be either verbally or within my mind thinking. Now, if my mind wandered, I'd need to be able to catch that it wandered and then return back to the mantra. And that is the technique that's taught. Now, in this case of Chih Kuan, well, what does it mean? You can say very simply to stop and see, or to contain an insight. Now, I like the word contain instead of fixed or concentrate, and I'll chat about that a little bit. So, when you concentrate your mind on the object, there are different meditative techniques where you wish to take the senses and turn them inwards. And the way that's done is if you have a look at your eye or your ear, when you look around, you naturally see. You don't try and see, and you naturally hear. You don't try and do these things. This is just the function of consciousness. So when you're trying to turn them around, since you can't control them anyway, it's not a method of actually using the eyes and ears. It's actually using your mind to hone in on something so fixatedly that all of the energy is directed to that concentrative object, that all the energy gets drawn away from all these other parts of your body. And so you can lose the sense of hearing. An example of this doesn't have to be you doing a meditative technique. You might be so engrossed in something. You might love playing computer games, and you get into the game and you're playing. I'm even doing it with my eyes, that fixation, and your brain changes with its waves. And then someone's calling you, but you can't hear them because you're like in the game. I think a lot of parents will know this about their kids, right? Now, the reason why I don't wish to encourage that for Sil and Dao is we have this martial component that if you're fixated in on one thing on the opponent, there are infinite other things that they could do. And then you get struck or you get tackled, or could be anything that you get attacked by them. So you don't wish to close the mind in that way. So this is the reason with this translation that I'm giving you, and in this technique, we don't wish to hone in and do that pratyahara where you draw the senses in. There is a time and place for that. You may wish to practice that with your sitting meditation, but not in this form. The other reason is this isn't kind of well known either. There are different streams of where to go with your meditation. And I kind of like to divide it into either the samadhi states or the jhana practices. The reason I kind of do it like that is the jhana practices are a natural unfoldment if you practice this Chih Kuan correctly, and you will go through those transformations. Those transformations tend to linger around. It's not something like if you take a drug and you have this experience, drug wears off, you come out, you can remember this experience, but you're still you. You haven't really transformed. That it might change your perspective because you're like, well, no, there's something out there beyond just this realm, but you're still you. These somatic techniques where you focus in and transcend from this consciousness and tune into another consciousness is just like that. And so you can have these wonderful experiences, and I've had them too, but you inevitably fall out of them and you're still you. And so good or bad, like it does change you in that respect that you have that experience, but it's not something that's going to go on. And if you stop practicing, it just goes away. So for me, I have shifted over into this. My focus is more on the jhanic sphere. That may cross against other people's definitions of it. That's why I'm giving you my definition. And so this is to do with the body, what they call the rupa, and then arupa, or not body, which is your mind. All right, and you got to go through those levels, and they're really just levels of attunement to vibrations, higher vibrations. So, but before we chat about any of that stuff, we got to come back to the technique, and I'm trying to give you the reasons why it's taught in this way. So you do need an object, right? You need an object that you're going to keep your mind on. Now, in the case of the Silnam Dao, in the previous video, I gave you an object, and the object is your own awareness, that you're turning your awareness around on the awareness. Now, that might be a bit esoteric or just difficult to wrap your head around as a beginner. And because you don't comprehend, just can't intellectually comprehend it, and therefore can't do it, the teachers gave other methods. And these are those other methods. And so I can see with my practice and progression, I went through those stages of, as I said, all the Qigong and even mantra and different types of meditation. And it wasn't until a point later that I look back at this Qigong method and it has grown on me. And I naturally do it when I fall out of my object of awareness. So if you're in the object of awareness, then there are, in a sense, look, things arise, but they don't disturb you because it's done from a pane of glass, like you're like a mirror, and objects that reflect on the mirror behind me, they don't touch the mirror; they're just a reflection. And so these things are a reflection of your open aware consciousness, and you're detached from them. That sort of state, it's come on for me because I have all of these practices. So, and that's my kind of disclaimer that you might listen to me here and go, but I can't do that. So if you can't, then you need another object to contain the mind. Now, if we have a look at if you were just doing standing stake, the perfect object for you would be your breath. Okay. If you're doing Silnam Dao, well, you have these movements. So every movement that you perform, your mind would be contained on that movement, knowing exactly what is occurring millimeter by millimeter with each feeling. And you're so engrossed in that, there's no time for thinking, right? Or being distracted. That is the goal. That's the place you want to get to. But what inevitably happens is you do get distracted. You might have an itch somewhere. You might feel an ache or a pain. Something's happened during the day or the week or whatever, and it's playing on your mind, and you have this rumination. You're thinking about things, or you may daydream over here. All of these things you don't want. You want to get to that place of that awareness or more awareness. And so, in order to sort of tie the mind down so it's not getting distracted everywhere, you need to have your meditative object. In this case, I just have a little sip. I've given that here, where you would enter into Yiji Kim Ma, and just going to come over here. You have everything precise that with what you've been taught about where your fist is located next to the rib cage here, and in this alignment with the front of the chest or solar plexus, and it's not touching against you. There is a space there. So I'm describing all the things that in your mind, you already know all those things, and you don't need to think about them. Your body is just going to do it. And then you would have that where the hand actually unfolds, and you know everything that's occurring when it unfolds. And then where do you move from, and how are you moving precisely to have the tansao come out? There are a lot of rules to follow, and by you concentrating on those rules and following that, you are embarking on doing this, what's called the Chih Kuan, that stopping component, because you're stopping your mind of everything else, and you're doing that one thing. And you can see how it interrelates with the name, the Silnam Dao, the way of the little idea, or it can be called small thought, right? Because you're reduced all of those thoughts, and it's simply a play of this practice. And I use that word play. You should be playing. If you're not playing it, then you're fixating in on it. And you need to have a way of doing it that is a non-doing. But that takes practice. Now, what do you do when these distractions arise? Well, the important thing is you've recognized they've arisen. The worst is if you go into a daydream and that's all, and you're just not getting out of it. You're just in your daydream. Then you're lost in there, right? Or, and it's very difficult for this sort of technique because you're moving and doing everything. But within a sitting technique, it can be easy if your eyes are closed that you're going into a reverie, you're going into a slumber, you're going into an unconscious state that you do when you sleep. And so you're sort of cultivating yourself to become denser, like a rock. Your evolution is going backwards from human to animal to plant to rocks. You want to be heading the other way. So I don't have to talk too much about that because it's kind of difficult to go in there when you're moving around. It's more to do with imagination and that sort of stuff. So it's likely you will catch it. And when you catch it, that's all you need to do, because you can't get your consciousness to go behind consciousness. Can't do that. So you simply becoming aware that you've become distracted, you then bring the mind back to where it's supposed to be. And That is part of the insight. The insight is you're learning that you're becoming distracted and how often you become distracted. Then when you realize that and bring your mind back to the containment, the thing you're supposed to be working on, because your mind is contained on that, you will gain further insight of what that really is. So, although it's two practices, it's really one practice, but you you have to practice it to understand that. So, and what I mean by that is, if I bring myself into turning the light around and nothing distracts me, then I don't have to practice Chi Kuan because nothing's distracted me. I'm in the moment. I'm in my nowness. I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. And but if something arises but it doesn't distract me, it doesn't matter. It's only when it catches the mind and you go with it, you go with that thought and they concatenate on one another, or you go with that imagination. That's the part where you perform this technique. So it's a brilliant technique that before you start Silim Tao, um, you can get yourself into that cleaner mind state, just focusing on your breath, letting things calm down, getting into the appropriate stance, and then you can begin your form. But you have this clarity of awareness, and there should be things that you're working on in your form. Depending on the school, they all have different components to work on. If you're just simply moving and you think, if I move slowly and I just do it every day, something's going to happen. More than likely not. Um, it's like I have my guitar and I go, you know what? If I just play this E string really slow, do it every day, really, there's some great songs going to come out of this. It's not right. It's just that E string. You need to learn, there are other strings. With that, I can do different fingering to play these chords. I have to use this hand to, could be classical, and I have to use finger picking, or it could be a plectrum, and there are many things you have to do to produce the music. Your Silnium Tao is like that. So don't think what I'm teaching you is you've gotten rid of distractions and you have this open, aware mind. And now your Silnium Tao is going to rocket to the moon. Um, what is provided here is a foundation that you can now practice the teachings that have been given to you by your Sifu or teacher, so that you have a clarity and insight that you're doing them correctly. Um, all of those pieces of how to do it and play it correctly. I'm not, it's too long for this video. Um, but yeah, I'll release some other videos and do things like that to disclose that. But at least you're coming along for the ride if you're catching these videos. You can begin practicing that component, and there might be some things that you want to work on. So I'm just going to give one now. All right. So we've spoken about the awareness and getting rid of distraction with this Qi Kuan method. Well, what can I work on? One of the crucial things with Sinan Tao is your posture, the alignment of your own center line, which is your spine. So do you know every sort of minuscule of your spine? Do you know each vertebrae? um, do you know how to use different portions of your body to create an alignment of your spine? For example, you may have been given one called Tai Gong, which is a lifting of the anus. You could just be working on that one. But remember that that one is actually just one of many to produce an aligned spine. And you want to have the aligned spine because it creates an open channel for the energy to freely flow through. And when these things begin to occur within you, they shouldn't be an imagination. It's simply an awareness, and you understand that that is what is going on. If you don't have that listening quality and that mirror-like awareness, you'll miss it. And more than likely, it won't come on, especially just doing Sun and Tao. There are other techniques outside of Sun and Tao that even if you're you haven't reached what I'm talking about with this clarity of mind, or you haven't reached a one focused, active concentration, you just can't do it. You can still do these techniques and they produce energy in your body, and you can feel it because you amp yourself up so much. And so with the course, the way I've designed it, I give all of those techniques up front. So people have something to play with and they feel like they're moving forward somewhere because they are. And then they can come to these higher vehicles that I'm discussing with the internet. All right. Hope that helps again, and I'll catch you all later.